Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. In this video I want to show you how to draft a female trouser pattern. So these are the measurements you are going to be needing for this. Okay, so let's get right into drafting. Before drafting the pattern, I'm going to mark 1 inch all around the pattern at the top here and at the side here. So I've gone ahead to draw the line on both sides. I added this 1 inch space so that I'll have space for adding seam allowance to the pattern paper. So guys, remember I already showed you the measurements that you are going to be needing for this. So what I want to do now is start taking all of the vertical measurements. The first thing I want to determine is how wide you want your band to be. I want the band I'm using to be 2 inches wide. So whatever measurement I'm going to be taking, I'm going to be taking 2 inches off of it, since the band will complete the trouser length. So I'm going to start from here. This is the line I'm going to be working with, and place the tape rule this way. So the first thing I'm going to mark out is the hip line. The hip line I'm working with is 9, so I'll come and mark 9 here. Then I'll mark the crotch depth. The crotch depth I'm using for this is 12. Okay, this is the measurement taken from the waist sitting down. So where the tape rule stops on the surface of the chair is the crotch depth. So this is 12. Then I'll go ahead and also mark the knee point. The knee point I'm using is 22. So I'll mark it here. And finally, mark the trouser length. So the length of the trouser is 40.5. So I'll come and mark 40.5 here. After doing that, I'm just going to use a ruler to connect, to draw a straight line. You can decide to retake the measurements around here to get a straight line. I'm just going to draw it. Let me use a marker for this. So this is the hip line. This is the crotch line. This is the knee point. And this is the full trouser length. Okay. So guys, this is the first thing I want to do. Mark out the hip line, the crotch line, the knee point, and that. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is take the hip measurement on the hip line here. So this is the hip line. The hip I'm working with is 44, and the hip I'm working with is 45. So 45 divided by 4 will give me 40. Will give me 11.2. So I'll come and mark 11.2 here. Also mark it on the crotch line and on the waist line. I'll use a ruler to connect. For this side, I don't want to use the green marker because it's not going to be the permanent line. So I'm going to use a pencil for this side. Okay. So this will stop at the crotch line only. So guys, after doing this, the next thing you want to do is to extend this crotch line. So the reason for extending the crotch line is because you want to give space and ease when you put on the trouser. So there are 2 ways to extend the crotch line. The first is to use the thigh roundness, which is what I mostly use. So I just want to draw out the line a bit more first. Okay. So the thigh roundness is going to be divided into 2. Remember that the thigh is just one thigh that is measured for the roundness, okay? And the thigh roundness I have here is 25.5. So 25.5 divided by 2 is what I will take on the crotch line. So this is method 1. When you do this and you observe that what you have is not up to 2 inches, then you go with 2 inches instead. So I'm going to make this to be extended by 2 inches. You can also decide to divide half of the hip roundness into 4. So half of the hip roundness is 11.2. If I divide that into 4, I'll have almost 3 inches. Okay, so since I have almost 3 inches, I'll use 2.5. Okay, so let me recap on that so it doesn't confuse you. The first method is to use the thigh roundness on this point. So I used the thigh roundness and this is what I got. It wasn't enough for me. So the standard is to then use 2 inches if the thigh roundness is smaller. Then after doing that, you can now also decide that you don't want to use 2 inches and you want to divide quarter of the hip roundness into 4. So that means after dividing the hips into 4 and getting like 11, you then divide that 11 again into 4, and that is what you will extend here. So what I had was almost 3. I got like 2.8, and I decided to just make the total here 2.5 inch. So this is what I'm extending the front of the crotch by. After doing that, you just want to draw a curve from here to meet with the line. Remember that this line, we got it by dividing the hips into 4. So before drawing the curve, you come here. This is the crotch line. You come here and come up by 1 inch this way. Okay, so you just come up and then use a ruler to connect. Remember that this is where the crotch depth stops. So you just connect it this way. So this is how to draw out the crotch for the front. Next thing I want to do is to take the waist measurement. The waist I am working with is 41. 41 divided by 4 will give me 10.25. So when you want to take the waist measurement, you come to this crotch line here, place the tape rule, and then mark out the waist measurement. This is 10.25 right here. So this is the waist measurement for the front. After marking out the waist measurement, you add that allowance. The dart allowance I'm working with is 1 inch. So I'll come and also take that. Assuming the waist is very small compared to the hips, I will connect it this way. Let me use a pencil for this. We just connect from the waist to the hip line like this. This is how you will connect it. But because I added that allowance of 1 inch, this is now the waistline. So it's basically just straight from the waist to the hips. So I'm just going to use a marker to outline it so it is obvious. Okay. So guys, after doing that, the next thing to do is to determine the grain line. And how do you do that? What you want to do is come to this crotch line here and measure from here to here. So this is almost 14, and divide what you have into 2. This is the grain line. So if I measure from here to here, what do I have? I have 7. So I'll come and measure 7 from this particular line to make sure I have something equal everywhere. So this grain line is important for taking the rest of the measurement for this trouser pattern. So I just come and mark 7 all the way to the end. And then I'll use the ruler to connect. So I'm also going to use pencil to connect this side because it's not going to be the permanent line for this pattern. So this green line is just called half of the trouser. So I know you're probably wondering, like, is this is not looking equal, because from here to here you can see that there's a difference, but don't forget that the crotch is part of the trouser pattern. So you're dividing the biggest part of the trouser, which will be this crotch, into two to get the middle of the trouser. So this is the green line here. Okay, so now that this green line has been drawn, I can go ahead and put the knee roundness and the ankle roundness. So remember that this is for one leg. When I took the thigh measurement, I divided it into two. So same thing will apply to the knee and to the ankle. It will be divided into two. What is the knee roundness? The knee roundness is 18.5. So that will give me 9.25 when divided into two. Okay, so this is where the green line comes in very handy. You can't take all of the measurements to this side. You can't take all of the measurements to this side or take it to this side, but just place the tape rule anyhow and figure out what you want to do. What you're going to do is divide it into two again. So 9.25 divided by 2 is giving me like 4.6. So I'll place that here and take half of the measurements on this side and half of the measurements on this side. So when I measure everything, it's giving me 9.2. This is the importance of the green line. Then I also come to the ankle here and do the same thing. The ankle roundness is 14. 14 divided by 2, first of all, is 7, right? So I'm going to divide 7 again into 2 before taking it here. So this is 3.5 on both sides. When I measure it, it will give me 7. Okay. This is the importance of the green line for taking accurate measurements. Now, another thing the green line is important for is taking out the darts for the front. So that it is at this green line that the front darts will be taken. Remember, it is 1 inch I used as a dart allowance. So I'll come here, mark ½ inch, and come to the other side of the green line and also mark ½ of an inch. And I'm going to make the darts to be 4 inches long for the front. Now I'm just going to use a ruler to connect. This is the dart for the front. Next thing I want to do is connect all of this together. To do this, I'm just going to use my hook curve stroke trouser curve. For this side, you do not want to connect it this way, no, because this is the crotch area. So you're going to place the curved ruler this way and connect. You also want it to be a bit sharp. So I'll just start right on the top and connect from here to here. So this is a permanent line. I'm going to use the green marker to connect from here to here. And then for this side, you do not want to take out of the crotch. When you're connecting, you're not connecting from the hips. You're not connecting from the hip to the knee. You are connecting from the crotch line to the knee point, okay? And you don't want this side to be too sharp. So I'm just going to come this way. Just a slight curve. From the knee point to the ankle, I will use a straight ruler. So I'm just going to connect from the knee point here and do the same thing for this side. What I want to do now is add zip allowance. So if you want to use a fly zipper, this is also applicable, but I'm making this trouser for someone else and the person just wants like a regular zip, not a fly zip. So I'm going to make the allowance to be 1.5 inch. So I'm going to connect and stop at the hip line. So I'll first of all use a straight ruler to connect all of this. Then for the rest of the side, I'll just draw a curve and let it stop wherever it lands. Okay. So this is the zip allowance. Okay. So guys, next thing you want to do is come to this waist here, and you want to come up by half of an inch only, nothing more. Okay, this is to make the trouser fit better. So you're going to extend the waist by this, and to make sure that you do not end up adding to the waist measurement, you're going to measure what you have here. In total is 13. So I'll come here and mark that 13. Okay, I can see that nothing serious was taken off. So I'm just going to draw a straight line like that because it's still exactly 13. So I've raised the waist by half of an inch. This is why it's important to leave space round before drafting the trouser pattern. So guys, this is it for the front pattern. What you do not want to forget is to add hemming allowance. When making trouser, if it's like an Ankara trouser, it's usually better when the hem is not too slim. So I like to use 2 inch. So I'll double fold it and end up having 1 inch as the hem. Okay. So I'm going to use a pencil here because I'm going to illustrate another thing on the side. So when you want to fold in this trouser, if you leave it this way, you will notice that the fabric here is small compared to what is here. It might seem equal on the pattern. This is 7. This is not even up, so just barely the same. Okay, but by the time you want to fold it in, it won't be enough. So what I like to do is come out by 0.25 inch on both sides of the allowance and then connect. Just like that. So this is the seam allowance. So there are 2 options for adding the seam allowance. Option 1 is to add seam allowance for the front and then add seam allowance for the back. Option 2 is to add all of the seam allowance on the back pattern. So that's way the trouser at the back will be bigger than the one at the front. If you notice, when you buy a jeans trouser, the front of the trouser is usually like looking smaller than the back, so the back is usually wider. You achieve that by adding all of the seam allowance on the back pattern. What I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this. I want the seam allowance to be 1 inch after joining, in case if there's need for adjustment. So I don't want to use ½ inch as the seam allowance. So what I'm going to do to make sure that the trouser is still a bit big compared to the front is that I'm going to add ½ of an inch seam allowance here and then add the remaining 1.5 inch on the other side of the pattern. So you know, if I want to use 1 inch seam allowance, then that means I need 1 inch here, 1 inch on the other pattern to join, right? So what I'll do is use ½ inch here and then 1.5 inch on the back pattern instead. I'm just going to go ahead and add all of the seam allowance for this front pattern, which is ½ inch. So I noticed that I didn't connect this side. Let me do that now. Next, I want you guys to notice that when you're taking your measurements, you have to add ease of 1 inch to all of the measurements, because it is a trouser, especially if it is not a jeans trouser that you are making. If it is an Ankara trouser, then you definitely need that ease allowance. So let's say your thigh measurement is 20, you're going to make it 21 at least. Then if you want it to be a bit more loose, you make it 22 before dividing by 2. Okay, so that is what I did for all of the measurements here. Sorry, I forgot to mention that earlier. You have to add ease, or if you do not add ease on the front pattern, you add it to the back pattern. There's another alternative, is to add the ease allowance on the back pattern. So if your thigh is 20, you leave it at 20. Then when you are taking the pattern for the back, you will now add that 1 inch as the ease. So that way the back of the trouser will also be wider than the front of the trouser. So that is another method of making the back of the trouser wider than the front. Method 1, add all seam allowance on the back pattern. Method 2, share the seam allowance equally for the front and the back, but then add all of the ease allowance to the back pattern instead. So I already added all of the ease allowance to the measurements before dividing. So method 2 is to add more of the allowance to the front. Remember, I'm using 1 inch as the seam allowance. I said I'm going to put ½ inch here, and then the remaining 1.5 inch will be added to the back. So when I want to join, I will take 1 inch here, 1 inch there, which is a total of 2 that has been taken out. So guys, this is everything for the front pattern. I've gone ahead to add the ½ inch seam allowance all around. I did not add to this side because this is already an allowance on its own, okay? So I won't need to add any other thing to this side. But this is everything. I'm going to go ahead and cut everything out now. So guys, this is the front pattern. This front pattern is what will be used to do the back pattern. So this zip allowance will not be needed. I'm just going to fold it in before using it for the back. And we just place the front pattern on the back pattern. So there's not going to be a lot of difference between the two. Majority of the adjustments to the back pattern will be done around this crotch area. But first, you want to make sure that the pattern is not exactly on the same line with this. So you come down by 3 to 4 inch before placing the pattern down. I'm just going to use pins to hold it in place. I'm gone ahead to pin the front pattern to a new pattern paper. The focus right now is on this side, so I'm just going to move the pattern a bit. The first adjustment you want to make to this trouser pattern is to extend the crotch. Now, why is the crotch being extended? This is to give the butt area space so that when you sit down, the trouser will not be tight and uncomfortable. Also, so you can walk freely. If you want to climb a bike or jump a bus, the trouser will be free for you to do that. It won't tear. Okay, so that is the reason for extending the crotch at the back, and also the back, the bum area is pretty big compared to the front, so you have to extend the crotch. So how much you are going to extend the back crotch by depends on how big the person's butt is. If you are working with someone that has like a very big butt, you want to be using 3 inches and above, but for an average person 2 inches and above is okay. So pay attention to where I'm placing the tape rule. Remember that all of this is the seam allowance. This is the actual line, right? So I'm going to place the tape rule here. I want to extend the crotch for this place by 3 inches. So I'm going to come and place the tape rule here and mark that 3 inch. So with this, I have extended the crotch. So this is the line. I'm making the line fence, okay? So after doing that, you want to come and take this down by half of an inch. So this is it, you are taking the crotch down by half of an inch, also to create more space. That is why you are doing that, okay? Then you come to the grain line here. Pay attention to where I'm placing the marker. I'm placing it on the actual measurement, not on the seam allowance line. Here, this is where I'm placing it. So this is the grain line here. From here to here, okay, is what I'm doing. Notice I'm not stopping at the dot allowance line, I'm stopping at the actual grain line, which is here. So what you want to do is divide what you have into 2. Whatever you get, it is by this that you are going to extend the waist by. Okay, I'm just drawing a straight line first, okay? So from here, this is where I'm going to take your waist measurement for the back. So what is the total waist measurement plus that allowance for the front? Excluding the allowance, please, it is 11.5. Notice where the tape will stop. Here and here. You can see the green line is the actual line. That's why I use the green line all around, while these ones are the seam allowance. So it is 11. So I'm going to come, before doing that, you want to raise the back. So you're also going to raise the back depending on how big the bum is. So the starting point, recommended starting point is 2 inches. So the bigger the butt, you can even use up to 4 or 4.5 inch. So for this trouser, I'm going to be raising it up by 3 inches. Okay, 3 inches is what I'm using. Notice I didn't put this right, so I'm redoing it. So this is exactly where 3 inch stopped. After doing that, what you want to do is come and retake the waist measurements. So remember I said it is 11.2. So I'll come here and measure this. If this is more than the trouser pattern, that is fine. So you can see that this is where 11.2 is. I'll just come and connect this side. Okay, you can see that I placed my ruler here. So this is it. And then I'll connect this from here to here. After doing this, the next thing I want to do is connect the crotch. So I'm going to remove the pins here, fold this over, and then connect everything back. So I'm just going to use free hand to do this. So the reason for all of this is basically just to give the butt area enough length. So you can use a ruler for this, but I literally just use my hand to draw it. So this is the crotch for the back. Okay. The reason also for raising this waist up is so that when you sit down, the trouser will still be on the waist. If you don't do this and you sit down, you notice that the trouser will be pulling down. You won't be able to sit well. So that is the reason why you have to come up, and that is why the amount you come up by depends on how big the person's butt is, because obviously the bigger the butt, the more ease you need there for sitting down. So this is the adjustment that will be made. Now what I want to do is connect this back. I'll use this part of the ruler again to connect, although you don't want this side to be too deep, so I'm just going to make it like this instead. Okay, so this is the back extended. You can also just, I think I prefer for it to just mix with points. You can see that I'm extending it to reach with the actual line for the front. That won't really matter very soon. So guys, this is the adjustment for the back pattern. Next thing I want to do is add the seam allowance for the back. Remember I said I'm using 1.5 inch as the seam allowance. So first of all, this side is a bit short. I should have adjusted the pattern more. So I'm going to join another piece of paper here. Now to add the seam allowance, remember I said I'm using 1.5 inch for the back and ½ inch for the front, which is a total of 2 inch as the seam allowance all around. So I end up taking 1 inch on both sides, which will make the front to be smaller than the back a bit. So guys, remember that what I took is from here to here, 11.2. This is it here, which means that there's no seam allowance added to this waist area at all. So I'm going to add the complete 1.5 inch. Just pay attention to this side so you don't get confused. I'll add the complete 1.5 inch. Then when I come to this side, you can see that it's just to the waist that I have to do that. From here, this is where I'm going to place the tape rule here. Not here, because this is the same allowance for the front. Here. Okay, because this is the actual body measurement. Then I will mark the 1 inch seam allowance and do that all round. Sorry, the 1.5 inch seam allowance. I want to place the tape rule here. If you place the tape rule here, that means they are adding 2 inches to the back allowance. Okay, you do not want that. But this is just better to use a straight ruler. Great. Okay, so this is for this side. For here also, I raised this place by 3 inch. Oh, this is supposed to have been 3 inch from here. This is it. This is what it should have been. So sorry guys. So let me retake the waist measurement. 11.2. This is 11.2. Okay, I just adjusted everything back. Okay, so this that was the mistake. I'm coming up by 3 inch. If I'm doing that, I should be placing the tape rule on the actual measurement line, which is here. But that is not what I did. I placed it on the seam allowance line for the front instead. So I'm going ahead to rectify it. Okay, so now I want to add the seam allowance here, which is ½ of an inch also. just like I did for the front. So this is the seam allowance, and then for this side I'll have to raise this side before I can add the 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, so after doing that, for this side, remember it is 1.5 inch seam allowance. So I'll come here. Remember I extended the crotch from here by 3, right? So I started from the proper line, not the allowance. So I will have to add actual 1.5 inch to this side, all of this side 1.5 inch. There's a slight gap here. I can easily fill that up later when I'm cutting. Guys, with this, the back pattern for this trouser is complete. Let me recap. So the difference between this front and the back pattern is, first of all, you're extending the crotch. Secondly, you're shifting the waist this side towards the side and then raising it up. So you're going to raise it up, and then we take, then this crotch line after extending, you're going to come down by 1/2 inch and connect this back. So that is really it for the back. Okay, so what you want to do is also determine where you want the dart to be. You can just decide to measure the grain line and put, or you will measure the bust span. I'm going to use the grain line. The grain line here is 4 and the 4 point, not up to 4.5. So I'm taking this, you can see I'm taking it away, not on the allowance, on the actual body measurement. So this is where the dart will be. I'm going to come and measure 1/2 inch on both sides. So I'm not going to be connecting this yet. There's going to be a little bit of work to be done on this side. But first of all, let me cut everything out and separate it. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and separate it now. Hey guys, at this point, the trouser pattern is almost ready. Now I can bring out this fly zipper for the front. Okay, so for this back, you notice that it is kind of slant, right? So the final adjustment to this back is to make sure that the dart is taken properly. If you decide to just draw a straight line, you will notice that the dart might not be straight because this place is already slant. Okay, for this front it is straight, but this back is not straight. I'm going to take all of the measurements plus the seam allowance. This is 5. If I decide to measure 5 and connect, you can see it is a bit slant, right? So anyway, the dart I want to use is also 4 inches. So I just want to check. Okay, that is exactly 4 inches. Now I've taken out the dart. So this is everything for the back. Let me link this one for you guys to see it properly. This is the back pattern, fully ready. I know it looks extremely big, but trust me, by the time you're done sewing, it will fit just right. Okay, especially here, it will be looking weird. You will feel like, what did I just do? Are you sure this is correct? Am I sure this is correct? It kind of looks weird, but trust me, just sew it. And if you're not sure, try it on like a cheap fabric, like maybe alba lining or something like that, and see how it fits before moving on to your actual fabric. So guys, next thing I want to show you is how to cut out pockets for the trouser. So if you want your pocket to look like all these ones in like a jeans trouser or joggers, what you are going to do, excluding the seam allowance line, Okay, you're going to come out by at least 2 inches. I'm going to use 2.5, and then you do not want this to go past the hip line, so you can just make it stop directly at the hip line if you want the trouser pockets to be wide, or you can come up from the hip line by 1 inch, 1.5 inch, 2 inches. But if you want to use 2 inch, then you want to be opening up this place a bit more. So I don't want mine to be a curve. I don't want a curve. I want like a slant line. So there are different ways you can connect from here to here. You can use a straight line. Let's say I'm using the 1.5 inch mark. You can use a straight line to just connect. You can use a slightly curved part, or you can even make this extremely curvy. All up to you. So I'm going to go with this, the pockets. Okay, so you want to take this all the way up. So this is something I would have loved to explain when I'm sewing, but in case if there are some of you that will not watch the sewing tutorial, or do I recommend you subscribe to my channel so you get access to that, or just look up Essosafashion for the next part of the tutorial. Okay, so guys, what I'm going to do is to cut this out first. What I should have actually done is add the seam allowance before cutting, so I won't need to add it later. I like to add all seam allowance on pattern paper if possible. So before I glue it back, the next thing I'm going to do is place a piece of paper under here. Okay, and you want to make this to stop right at the crotch line. So you can decide to make the pocket go past the crotch line, but I wouldn't want it to go down too much. I know my clients like the pocket, so I'll make it 1 inch lower than the crotch line. That is going to be plus seam allowance anyway. Let me do it this way, and then I'll trace out the pockets. I like to add seam allowance on the pattern, so I'll add the seam allowance. You understand why the seam allowance is needed here if you watch the sewing tutorial, which will most likely be out next week. I post tutorials every Friday, so I'll just blend this. But remember that this is already plus seam allowance. Then what you want to do is also determine where you want the pocket to stop. I don't recommend the pocket going past this green line, so here is enough. I'm just going to make it stop around here instead. This is where the pocket is going to stop. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just draw a straight line. Okay, and then connect this way. So after doing that, I also draw a straight line here because this is where the pocket stops. Now you can go ahead and curve this side. I'm just going to do something simple with my master curve and curve here. So I'm going to be cutting, adding seam. This place is here, so there's already seam allowance here that has been pasted here already. Okay, and this side too, seam allowance has been added. However, for this side, the seam allowance have not yet been added. So I'm going to add, this is just something rough. Let me just use the ruler. Seam allowance of half an inch, because the pocket I'm going to be cutting out is into 2. Okay, so you're going to see how I'll cut out the other piece, which will be used for facing the pocket. So it is assumed that seam allowance is already on this side. So I'll go ahead and just cut it out. Okay, so guys, this is the first piece for the pocket. Can you guys see? Remember that all of these, they are just the same allowance. So this is it. This is pocket number 1 piece. I can see that this side they are not running, so I'm going to remove this. Okay, the second piece is basically what I'm using to complete the pocket back. Okay, so first you want to make sure that this first piece will be able to fit in. Okay, then you just basically place everything back, and then what I'm doing, you basically want to complete what was taken off. So let's say this is what was taken off, right? I'll just complete it. Can you guys see that? After doing that, this is it. So this is going to be the pocket. What I want to do now is to just trace the rest of it to make sure that it is equal. I'm going to place it back and see what I have before I trim off that top part. Okay. So guys, this is how it is going to be. This is going to be very tricky. Basically, you're going to turn this side together, which will finish up this side to make it neat, and then this side you're going to join it together. So you basically join this piece together this way. You only join from here and here, leaving this side. Then you turn this side with here. But as I need 2 pieces, I can't really explain it very well until it's time to sew everything together. So that is the reason why seam allowance has to be on this one. Remember, I already added seam allowance for here, so the seam allowance here has to come back. Now I'm going to go ahead and just glue this back together. Leave just the same allowance. So guys, with this, the tutorial is complete. I know it seems like it's very long, but if you really calm down and you're really ready to learn, then you realize that this tutorial is very detailed. I took my time with this. That's why I can use the voice over. Okay, so this is the pocket for the back. This will be used to turn this one, and then this will be used to complete the pockets, the trouser back. Okay, and then you have a complete trouser. So guys, this is the back pattern, and this is the front pattern with the pocket. I hope you guys found this tutorial very helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. I always respond to my comments. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.